Aloha! This Traditions of the Pacific lecture is titled Kaulana Mahina, Introduction to the Hawaiian Moon Cycle, presented by Kalei Nu'uhiwa. This lecture was recorded on Wednesday, April 16th, 2014.
I greeted us this evening with an oli for apule for enlightenment. And I love how it includes a lot of atmospheric happenings, right? The breaking of the sky, the lightning slashing diagonally across the heavens, the thunder rumbling to the right and to the left. And with the flash of insight from all of that action comes wisdom. Wisdom out of the mouths of many ali'i, so that so that the world can continue to move forward. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce Kalei Nu'uhiwa. Kalei Nu'uhiwa was born and raised on Maui. She was the first master's degree graduate of Papahulilani, Center for Hawaiian Language at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. It's no mistake that the title of her thesis was Kaulana Mahina, He Onai Hana Alemanaka Hawaii. That is, the study of the lunar calculations, a Hawaiian calendar system. I first met Kalei on Kaho'olawe and remember her complete comfort in the embrace of the environs of that island, a place where she has worked and volunteered for years in the effort of restoration of Kaho'olawe with both the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission and with the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana. She's one of the researchers for the Papaku Makawalu project with Edith Kanakaole Foundation, a Hawaiian approach to the building of knowledge of the universe around us. Her primary discipline is Papahulilani, the study of all aspects of the atmosphere and that which impinges on us through it. The phenology, the energies, the cycles of the sky from a Hawaiian perspective. In the traditional Hawaiian worldview, these atmospheric elements are the kino, the embodiment of the pantheon of akua Hawaii, and they still play an essential role in the modern Hawaiian consciousness. In that capacity, as a Hawaiian researcher, she co-authored the Papahulilani section of the Cultural Use Plan for Kaho'olawe, the Kumokuhali'i Forest Resource Cultural Use Plan, and the Keauhou Kahalu'u Educational Cultural Use Plan for Kamehameha schools, working with the schools, the Keauhou Kahalu'u Education Group, community groups, and cultural practitioners. Kalei continues to research and build understanding of the significance of site placement and use within the historical corridor of Kahalu'u. She maintains ongoing studies of celestial alignments with many sites situated in the main Hawaiian Islands to understand traditional tracking of time and spatial measurements, often through timely observations from traditional celestial observation sites. Her reputation in that regard took her all the way to Papahana Mokuakea to participate in solstice observations at Moku Manamana, a place of huge significance along Kealanui Polohiwa Kaane, the Tropic of Cancer. Kalei shares traditional data and observations through a variety of traditional and modern media, with aspirations to assist others with their own recording and data collection of their environmental phenomena in Hawaii. She's currently planning to hold a Pacific-wide Lunar Calendar Conference in 2015 to discuss among Pacific peoples the natural indicators of climate and climate change. If you'd like to donate to that project, you can contact Kalei by email, and she'll share that email in her program. And now, without further ado, Kalei Nu'uhiwa.
Kona nui aina la ua vela I ka la ua ke ia e ta ua ta mu o ka wau ke a pili na keke i kala o kona. O ka ha'awe pili ke kua. O ke ka ma'apili ka wawai ne lae. Na u, na u, na u. Aloha ahiahi kako. I thought I'd start with a chant about kona. That's kind of where I'm employed with right now. But before I continue on with that, I just want to say thank you so much, Ohu, for introducing me and granting me and gifting me that oli, that mele. It was very lovely. Makes me think of a lot of things. Makes me think of a lot of things. And it also helps me to calm my nerves because, as most people know, I would rather set myself on fire than actually stand in front of you all and talk. And my social skills are very limited whenever I have to do presentations because I'm afraid things will fall out of my brain and I will forget what to say in my presentation. So I apologize if I may not have said hello to you, and I will later. So anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that I started with a chant from Kona, being that I'm standing in front of some of the ki'i that come from actually the heiau that we're restoring right now in Kahalu'u, called Ke'eku. And it's very humbling to be here in front of them. When I first came here, I think I was in Kamehameha School's explorations program, which means I was 5th grade, right? And you don't know what you're doing in 5th grade. You have no idea, although you think you do. And I remember coming here and walking around and looking at things. And, these things that are hanging, these things that are wow, who'd have thought that someday I'd be sitting here or standing here in front of you all, looking at you, looking at me, like I have something really important to say. So I never thought about that when I was in the 5th grade, so it's really come full circle. And I really enjoy being here and speaking in front of you. It's quite an honor to be here in this place with all of you, and I'm very honored that you all gave up your time away from home to be here and to listen to me this evening. So thank you very, very much. I also want to say aloha to all of our seen and unseen kupuna who are here this evening. I think it's important to acknowledge them, and especially all of the artifacts that are here. They've touched folks and lived at a time or in a time that was, very important to us today to try and stretch out our hands to retouch again. So it's really important to acknowledge that. I'd like to acknowledge all of you who are here today. Those of the BishopMuseum, thank you so much. And the folks who hosted us in the mixer earlier, thank you for the glass of wine that kind of helped me calm my nerves. Thank you for that. And then again, aloha to all of you here on Oahu. Mea mahua olelo, he wahi aloha a mahalo. Okay. All right, so I got all that out of the way. Okay, so my style of presentation is very, very casual. I'm a casual speaker. So if you have things you want to ask, you really have to stop me in the middle of the talk and ask me right away. And I don't mind that. In fact, I encourage it. I will forget if you say, oh, you just said that 2 paragraphs ago. I'm not going to remember it. It's just not going to happen. So please stop me in the middle of it. And also, I don't mind children. I don't know if there's babies here and all that. I'm not sure what the venue was. So if there's children here, I have learned to allow them to be here because I think, they observe way more than a lot of us, even though you think they're not listening. And so I'll just talk louder. That's all we do. And we just let them do their thing. Okay. All right. So I also have my daughter here. And she's my cue, when I have to lower my kite because I'm off the subject. That's her job, to reel me back in and to let me know how much time I have left to talk. I think we're going to try for an hour, I think. So, and I'm not sure if I'm going to make it that long, so we'll try. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background on how I think I'm an expert, which I'm not, of the moon calendar, because I have learned over time that as soon as I think I know something really well, I find out that I know nothing at all about it. And so it's been that way with the lunar calendar. Historically, what happened, which was about 30 years ago, I was part of that movement on Maui that wanted to assure that there was an immersion program. And so I knew I was going to put my children in that program, and didn't have the Olelo skills then, and thought, okay, well, if I'm going to send them there, I need to, be a better speaker. And so I went to night classes, I went to MCC, and Kiope Raymond was one of our teachers and things like that. We had a lot of teachers, and ended up getting hired by the Punana Leo, basically because there was a need. And, you can only tell 3-year-old and 4-year-olds a'ole so much before they run you over, right? So what I decided to do was to seek out some knowledge from people who were language speakers at that time. And it just so happened I started going to Kaho'olawe with my family and all that. And there were these 2 kupuna who would come every once in a while. And they would come and drink their cocoa, which now I've come to learn is ava, that's what they were drinking on the back of the boat as we were making our way to Kaho'olawe. And on one of these occasions, as they were speaking, and they spoke in a very guttural Hawaiian way, which was not something heard often and not at all heard today. And it was very indicative of the folks from Kipahulu. And so I came to find out over time that one gentleman's name was Uncle Harry Mitchell, and he comes from Kiana and Kipahulu, and the other gentleman was Uncle David Ka'alakea, and he comes from Kipahulu and Kaupo, which is where my family comes from. And they were speaking one day on the back of the boat, drinking their cocoa, and they said, "Oh, ale mai kai kaloia, he po ole keia." And so, I heard po'ole, right? Heard my opportunity. I'm going to jump in on this, try and practice my Hawaiian skills, right? And so I jumped in and I said, come on out, look po'ole. Well, of course, they immediately turned and just blurted everything they knew in an hour on, going over to the island. And I think I got maybe 2% of what was told to me. And I thought, oh my gosh. I know they gave me pearls of wisdom in that hour, and I don't know what they said. I have no idea. And I was afraid because I would go every month again, and they'd be in the back of the boat drinking their ava. And I thought to myself, okay, well, I got to brush up my language skills. And because I don't want them repeating what they said to me, I'm going to go look. So I looked in David Malo's book, right? Chapter 12, if you guys don't know, it's all about time. Okay, I looked, and then I would go and then talk with them again, and then come back and go, okay, that was they talked about the ocean this time. And so I would go and I would look, and I looked up in all the different books and native planters and things like that. And it was sort of that was the beginning of how I started learning about the moon. And every time they saw me, they made it a point to talk about the moon, thinking that I was really genuinely interested in it. And I actually wasn't. I just didn't want them to know that I didn't know what they were talking about. So that's kind of how it happened. And I ended up going and researching in the newspapers too, just so that I could, not ask them the same question again, and they wouldn't have to repeat the same things again. And this is back in the day when it was microfiche and microfilm, and it was catch-22 if you're lucky if you caught it. Lucky if you found something. I mean, now with the ulukau.org, you just punch in the word mahina and everything that is a mahina will pop up, right? That's been uploaded. So it really was a different time back then. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I'm so grateful, but that's sort of what, started my movement towards learning about the moon. And one of the things that those 2 guys told me, in all these various times that we'd get together and talk, is they said, well, back in the day, we needed to know about the moon because there were no barges. You had to efficiently know how to fish and to farm in a quick and productive manner. You just had to. There was no choice. And, I always say that death is a motivating factor. If you're hungry, you get real motivated on doing things. So one of the things they said after that was, if you plan on learning about the moon, you need to pay attention to everything. Start writing everything down. So back then, I have my little Write in the Rain book with all the little notes that I would take of the flowers that were blooming, the fruits that were fruiting, what the weather was like, what was the ocean doing, what did the limu look like, were there spiders, were there not spiders, were there moths, those kinds of things. I had no idea that I was on this journey towards becoming a Hawaiian scientist, just because I asked them about the po'ole. What was the Ole Nights? So anyway, and here we are today, much later, with a lot of. It's become a movement that people are very, very involved with now, and I'm very happy that that's happened over time. Anyway, so this is actually a presentation that I put together for this evening, specific to this evening. I didn't want to repeat some of the things that I talked about in other presentations. If you want to check it out, you can just go on Vimeo and see the videos that are out there that have various Mahina things. So instead, I'm going to go into a little more basic, and I'm going to give you some basic information about the moon. Is that cool? Well, you're a captured audience, so you have no choice, okay? All right, so here we go. All right, this is on everybody's mind, I think. If you guys were, I don't know how Oahu's weather was, but on Hawaii Island, we all had to go up Mauka into Saddle Road area to watch the total lunar eclipse that occurred 2 nights ago. And so these are photos of those that occurrence. And I'm very proud that I actually took those pictures. Okay, all right. Yeah, you can clap. I like that. Thank you. And I have over time collected some information about how Hawaiians thought about the lunar eclipse. It's interesting to note that there's actually more information about the solar eclipses than there are about the lunar eclipses. In fact, they're very obscure. There's nothing that says, this is what Hawaiians thought about the lunar eclipse. Okay, and knowing how observant our ancestors were, and the old folk were, and how much it was important to them to record it in our data. And when I talk about data, I'm talking about chants. That's data to us, because it's very detailed information about what they observed. It's interesting to note that there's a couple of themes that pop up whenever you talk about the lunar eclipse. And so one of the these are the terms that they use, Poli'ia, and I think Sahoa Fukushima. I love Facebook. If you guys aren't on Facebook, you got to get on Facebook, because there's all these people talking about everything. And so what was going around on Facebook was this article that was written 104 years ago talking about the red moon that they were about to see. And it attributed it to akua painting it, with red paint. That's what it said. So anyways, they use the term poli'ia. Everybody say poli. Okay, and Pauli'ia Mahina, poli. Sometimes you see malamauli. Everybody say malamauli. Okay. Another term is hoku'ula. Everybody say hoku'ula. And then the one that I'm going to talk a little bit about more is mahinauli. Everybody say mahinauli. Okay, great. Well, hoku'ula is discussed by a gentleman named Joseph Moku Ohai Poi Poi, and he writes about it in an article in October sometime 1906. And what he says is, the hoku'ula, it's a term that is used for planets. It's also used for different stars that are red in the sky. It's used for the moon when it's red. Okay, hoku'ula. And I thought, wow, that's got to be all about the eclipse. So that's one term. And then the last is mahina uli. And so I'm going to teach you a chant, a little ditty. Okay, and this little ditty comes from, actually I've found two sources for it. One is in the notes, in the footnotes of David Malo's book. I'm not sure if it was Emerson who put it in there or if it was Alexander who put it in, I'm not sure. But so that's one source, and the other source comes from a story called Kamiki. Are you guys familiar with Kamiki? You know, Kamiki is the epic story of the planet for Hawaiian people. You guys got to get that. You know, like the Game of Thrones. If you guys are into Game of Thrones, that's the Hawaiian version. Okay, and ours is older with real people, so it's awesome. And in it, those writers and composers, I'm going to have to say, because it's pretty obvious it's not one person, it's several. What they would do is they would take all these old chants and old ceremony and weave it into this story about this character named Kamiki and his brother. Right now his brother's name went out of my head. But anyway, yeah, and he's the quiet guy, but Kamiki is sort of a guy who is always getting into everybody's hair. So anyway, this is one of those chants. And it's a little bit different. It's a little different version from what's in David Malo. And it's said on the top of it, He pule ho'ola I kapoli ana o ka mahina. Wow, that's pretty clear, okay? Na mauli ola ki akua, a prayer for health on the lunar eclipse. Okay? To mauli ola, the god, or the akua, the deity. Okay? So, I'm assuming they're praying for health. I'm also assuming that they're doing it for their chiefs, but basically I cannot tell if a lunar eclipse is a negative thing, a bad omen, or if it's a good omen. I cannot tell. But what I do know is that you're asking for health during the time of that event. Okay, so everybody repeat after me. Ihi iaka paha oi ihi ialo. I kakahiaka nei. I kala'au ake kaukauali'i. I nui ke aho. A hiki ia mauli ola. I ola na mahina uli. You see where it says clap, clap? Don't say clap, clap. We have to actually, okay, clap, clap, okay? And then, so we're going to say that 3 times. And then end it with a clap, and then go back to the top. So we do it 3 times. And then when we're done, the last line we say, I ola mauli ola. I ola ya mauli ola. Let's try. I ola ya mauli ola. Okay, from the top. Let's try. Ready, and. Ihi iaka paha oi ihi ialo. I kakahiaka nei. I kala'au ake kaukauali'i. I nui ke aho. A hiki ia mauli ola, I ola na mahina uli. From the top. Ihi iaka paha oi ihi ialo, I kakahiaka nei. I kala'au ake kaukauali'i, I nui ke aho. A hiki ia mauli ola, I ola na mahina uli. Ihi iaka paha oi ihi ialo, I kakahiaka nei. I kala'au ake kaukauali'i, I nui ke aho. A hiki ia mauli ola, I ola na mahina uli. I ola ia mauli ola. Okay, and when you're done, you go, Okay, very good. All right. Well, it's just like a sermon. I feel like a kahu up here. It's awesome. Okay. Anyway, so we're asking for health. So how you guys feel? Okay, good. All right. We'll come back to that later. Okay. So, Kaulana Mahina. Everybody say Kaulana Mahina. So, when I came across this term, it's not really written a lot, except by a gentleman named Joseph Moku Ohai Poi Poi. Okay. Love that man. Praise his descendants. I hope they're just as brilliant as he was. This guy was really busy. He edited 12 Hawaiian language newspapers and wrote like daily. It's just amazing how this man's sense of urgency to record what he knew moved him to be so active for so many years. He did it for many, many years, and of course it ends after when he passes on, and that's the end of that. But what he explains in many of his articles is that the term Kaulana Mahina, Kaulana doesn't just mean famous. Kaulana means a sequence, okay? A sequence of something. Well, what's the sequence about? It's the sequence of the moon, okay? So that's what Kaulana Mahina means. Kepolino actually uses the term Kaulana Mahina as well. If you look on his memoirs, hey, that all comes from the BishopMuseum too. I want to swear it's so cool. Okay, anyway, and in Kepolino, he talks about how Kaulana Mahina describes the position of the moon in the sky. Okay, and then the other person who talks about Kaulana Mahina is actually Mary Kavena Pukui in her dictionary. There's just a small little blurb in there, and what she says is that's how you understand the activity that is supposed to occur on each moon. Okay, so I've chosen to use the term Kaulana Mahina to describe the lunar calendar because that's what it is. Okay. I'm just going to give you a brief background, just to get us in a little happy, warm, fuzzy spot. Okay, just to let you know the difference between a Kaulana Mahina and an Ale Manaka Kelekolia. Okay. And that's the Ale Manaka Kelekolia is the Hawaiianized word for Gregorian almanac. And I'm not going to ask you to repeat that because we don't need to know that. Whatever. Okay. We're very familiar with it. Yeah, if we start in a warm and fuzzy spot, okay, where it makes us happy, we know this one by heart, right? There are 7 days in a week. It follows basically the sun, okay, and the activity of the sun. 4.5, weeks in a month. We know this. 365.25 days in a year. We know this. Although you guys know that's changing. Yeah, the Earth is actually going quicker now. So they say, just to let you know. And there are generally 12 months in a Hawaiian year, generally, okay? And I say that because, you know how we have the leap year where we have to insert an extra day, so it assures that our year flows, throughout time, relatively close to the time that it needs to. Well, Hawaiians had a way of remedying that as well. Because, anyways, yeah. I'm going to talk about that when we do the moon calendar. Anyway, generally there's 12 months in a year. Okay. A Kaulana Mahina, everybody say Kaulana Mahina. Kaulana Mahina is very different where our Western calendar, our Ale Manaka Kelekolia, follows the sun. Hawaiian calendar follows the moon generally. Okay. It also needs to follow stars. There are specific stars that are tracked for time. And it also follows the sun. So our calendar, which, Ruba Light Johnson is here. I cannot believe that. Holy moly, I'm scared. She did a lot of work about that and spent a lot of time researching about that. And it's through her that So what you see is that our calendar needs to have understand the sequence of the moon. We have to understand the sequence of the stars, because the stars are seasonal too as well. And we have to understand what the sun is doing. Where is it located throughout the year? You guys know it moves right across the horizon, right? Throughout the year, it takes about 6 months to go all the way to the north. It takes another 6 months to come all the way back to the south. Okay, very important for timekeeping. Very accurate, and it's constantly happens. Okay, we recognize, Hawaiians, as well as others in the Pacific, we recognize 30 different shapes of the moon. How many, gang? Okay, great. A Hawaiian week is called a Anahulu. Everybody say Anahulu. Okay, and if we all stick out our hands right now and we wiggle our fingers, how many fingers do you have generally? 10. Yeah, because I don't know if you had an accident or you were born special. I don't know that, so. So you might, yeah. Anyway, let's just, okay, before ADD or what, ADA people get after me. But anyway, so 10, okay? And ana means to count. Hulu are your digits, okay? Feathers, if you can imagine that. So there's 10 of them. So our weeks used to have 10 days, okay? Each week has a name. One is called Ho'onui. Everybody say Ho'onui. Second is called Piha Poi Poi. Everybody say Piha Poi Poi. And the third is called Ho'emi. Sometimes it's called Emi and, Uli and all. There's different words for that. But yeah, so each of those weeks have 10 recognizable shapes that sit in those weeks. Okay, can we dig it? All right, okay. Okay, now back to the malama that I was talking about earlier. Malama is the Hawaiian term for the Hawaiian lunar month. Okay? You can see the term mahina too. It goes back and forth between mahina and malama. But most of the time, generally when they say the word malama, they're talking about the actual Hawaiian lunar month itself. Okay? So there are generally 12, okay, every year. Okay, there's generally 12, except on those special years, like this one is one actually, where we have to insert a 13th lunar month into the sequence, okay, to assure that the months flow when they're supposed to, much like our leap year when we add an extra day. So generally we have 360 days in a year. If we follow, right, 12 or 30, we multiply that, 360, which means we're short by 5.25 days, right? If we think about that, and as time continues on, 360, wow, by the 6th year, yeah, a whole month is needed to make up the difference of what was left behind. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand that? Okay, brilliant. Okay, this is going to blow your mind even more. There are 13 lunar months. Okay, I'm going to say that again. I know, I just heard, huh? Okay, there are 13 lunar months. There are 14 because if you run the 12, our regular 12, there are certain 13th lunar months that sit in between there. So when there's a shift where a month is before it's supposed to be, and it happens before it's supposed to happen, you add the 13th lunar month after that. So it's already placed in between the 12. Does that make sense? When my book comes out eventually someday, sometime, and you see the picture. Oh, yeah. Okay, anyway, so those malama are called malama pili. Everybody say malama pili. Okay, so anybody who Googles something and you come across a malama pili, let me know. Okay. All right. Okay, so, and of course the importance of makali'i. Makali'i is really important to a lot of people on this planet. And what it does is it recalibrates everybody's lunar calendar. Okay, it recalibrates it. So as soon as we see it rising in the east at the same time the sun is setting in the west, generally around November, okay, beginning of November, middle of November, you know that the new year is about to begin. Okay? So generally, so that's basically how it works. So it's really important that we understand the stars, the moon, and the sun. Okay, are we good? Okay, so I'm not going to quit my day job. This is my attempt at animation. Okay, but I used to be. Remember, I said I used to work for Punana Leo, and I've learned when you do things with kids and you have animation and movement, they actually pay attention a little bit. I also learned that it works with adults too. In fact, better. Okay, so what you see is our moon orbiting around the Earth. Yeah, we can agree that that happens, yes? Okay, and as you can see, one part of it is always lit by the sun. Okay, can you see that? Oh, wait, let me, I want to pretend. Okay, here we go. So this part always faces the sun. This part is always dark. For us on the earth, on the other hand, we're watching it as it moves across, so we can see this is full moon, and it's starting to get into the waning moons. You see this part right here is what we see. Now we're in the quarter moons, and it's moving up, and it's in the new moons because we're looking at the dark part. And then, you guys see how that works? Okay. Generally, it takes 27.3 days for the moon to orbit the Earth, okay? However, it takes another 2.8 days or something like that for the moon to catch up, because the Earth is also orbiting the sun. All these little circle things going all over the place, okay? Does that make sense? So it takes another 2 days. So that's roughly 29.5 days. Which is what most of our calendars follow, 29.5 days. But Hawaiians recognize 30 distinct shapes, okay? And so this is what we see. This is what we see on the Earth. Okay, these are the 30 phases put together, so you can see. You see how this side, when it's round on this side, everybody go like this. So then you'll remember. Okay. Waxing, getting bigger on the right. When it's round on this side, it's waning. Okay? So that's how you can tell what's happening, right? So if this side's round, you know that, oh, it's getting bigger. If you see it again later and this side's round, okay, that's how you know it's getting smaller. Okay, does that make sense? Wax on, wax off. Okay? Mr. Miyagi. I borrowed this from NASA. I figure I pay taxes, so you know, it's mine. Okay? It's yours too, so you're more than welcome to borrow it as well. Okay, everybody say Ana. Ana is the dark part of the moon. Okay? If we can remember the word Ana is cave. Caves are dark. That's the dark part. Okay, everybody say Kena. Kena is the lit part of the moon. Okay? So Kena also means to be satiated. So if we can think about the lit part, the bright part always eating the darker part of the moon, then we get a good idea about the dark side, which is Ana, and the bright side, which is Kena. Okay? Are we good? All right. So these are those 30 shapes. 30 distinct shapes that Hawaiians recognize. Okay? However, in the natural sequence of time, okay, it doesn't mean that all 30 happen sequential in 30 days all the time. About 5.8 times out of the year, what happens is you get 2 moons in a 24-hour period. Okay, does that make sense? 5 times out of the year you get, which makes, oh yeah, 29.9. Wow, some smart, those guys. Okay, so if we can imagine that, we can see that these are the 30 that are actually are sequenced. And, back. Okay, here we go. So you see muku. See how muku is dark? Muku also means short, to cut off. And if you ever know the story about Lono Muku, you know, when Hina jumps away from her husband Ku and becomes Lono Muku, that is a story talking about how we drop one of those moons, okay, because her foot gets cut off. You know, I wondered, what the heck is that story about? Why are they cutting off her foot? Okay, that means when Muku rises, most of the time, about 5 times out of the year, maybe 3 or 4 times out of the year, it's going to rise as Muku, but set as Hilo. Okay? So that's why it's called Muku, cut off. It's cut off. Okay, and the other one that gets dropped also is this guy right here called Kulu. Everybody say Kulu. Kulu means to drop. So, what generally happens is Mahilani will rise the night before, but when it sets as Kulu. So Kulu gets only half a day. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Awesome. Each of these moon phases have names. And, I've been to New Zealand. Oh, what I was learning about the waxing and the waning, that doesn't apply to the folks down in New Zealand because the moon is upside down and it rises backwards. It's really funny. So I had to adjust that when I was talking. But anyway, yeah, which tells me that our moon calendar is specific to Hawaii. Okay, that's what that tells me. Okay, that our practices and things that we have affiliated with our moon calendar truly belong to us. Okay, and their calendar truly belongs to them. And those guys who are in Samoa truly belongs to them. Okay, so all those guys in the West, all over the place in the Pacific. Okay, anyway, so each of them have names, and yeah, these are them. These are they. Okay, so now I'm going to talk briefly about the malama. Okay? See, so if you've come before to my talks, you're like, wait, the sequence is off. Yes, that's right. I decided to throw you guys off a little bit. So this is malama. Everybody say malama. And the malama are important. Everyone always asks me, Kalei, which calendar is the correct one? Is it the Kamehameha School's one? Is it the Prince Kuhio Club one? Is it yours? Is it that guy who has his app? Who's correct? Because sometimes one is before, some is after. What's going on? What's going on? Who's correct? Well, my answer is we're all correct, okay? Because as the sequence is happening, it doesn't stay the same. The moon moves along. So if I say this is Hilo and Kamehameha School says this is Ho'aka, well, probably by the time my day is over, it's going to turn into Ho'aka anyway, so we're all correct, okay? But what makes ours a little more accurate is the malama. And the reason for that is, as the two uncles said, you must pay attention to what's happening around you. That determines your microclimate. Your climate activity determines the name of your moon. What's happening? Okay, so it's based on seasonal and cyclical changes that we can definitely predict, and the importance of guiding stars. Make sense? Do I need to repeat? Okay, fab. All right, so if I were to take the year and cut it in half, these are our winter months. So we have Velehu, everybody say Velehu. Makali'i, Ka'elo, Kaulua, Nana, Velo. We just happen to be in the lunar month of Velo right now. So during these 6 lunar months, these are our wet months. And if you notice, Velo, which means to waver back and forth, is the most psychotic weather. Aren't we having strange weather? One minute it's cold, next minute hot, raining really hard, and all of a sudden half your house is wet and the other half is humid, kind of crazy stuff like that. Yeah, that's Velo. See, so you have to pay attention, you have to understand the names. Each of these names, okay, has a star by the same name. And if you don't believe me, you can look in Va, Umikumaha of the Kumulipo, that talks about that. It even has the 13 lunar months in it as well. Okay, inside scoops. Okay, so it tells you even where to put it. But here we go. Here's Velehu. Everybody, Velehu. Makali'i. Ka'elo. Kaulua. Nana. Velo. Okay. So these 3 lunar months here that are in the green, these are our Makahiki months, and these other 3 are usually in the time when we're transitioning out of the time of Lono into the season of Ku. Okay, so during our winter months, the weather is extremely active, and our kupuna, the old folks of the day when they were following along, wanted to capitalize on that energy that was naturally happening out there. So they placed their seasonal times during those times, okay? Because they wanted to use that same kind of energy for their ceremonies and stuff. Okay, can we dig it? All right. So this is basically Hawaii Island. If you've seen it before, everybody say Ho'oilo or Ho'oilo. It means wet season generally. This is what Ko'olau looks like on the island of Hawaii. Okay, that's Pu'umaka'ala there. Yeah, lots of clouds, very wet, Okay. This is what the average rainfall that happens during that time at Wai'anuenue. So you can see the average rain that happens in the wintertime. That's there. So you can see it's pretty wet, yeah? Okay. In Kona, you can also see, this is the Kona field system. Oh, actually, yeah, Kona and Kohala field system. You guys see them? Those lines there? Can you see it from afar? Do you know this is 26 miles long and 6 miles wide? That's a lot of food production, don't you think? You know how brilliant this is? This is the Costco. This is the Costco of Hawaii Island. You start planting over here as you follow, go along. 26 miles later, by the time you come back over here, it's time to harvest. Yeah, and then you harvest and you move along and plant right behind and you keep going. It never ends. It's the bank that says yes. Okay. All right, so this is what it looks like in the wintertime, very green. So, of course, folks on Kona are going to capitalize on the rain season and plant. Okay. Hello. All right. Now, this is the summer months, okay, the other half of the year. As we're moving along, everybody, ikiki, ka'aona, hinaya ele, hilinayahu, hilinama, ikua. So these are the dry months of the year, and ikua is another psychotic month. That's when, right before the winter starts to happen, we've got thunderstorms that show up out of nowhere. It's like really strange weather. Ikua does that. Okay, and so what happens is we've already finished the time when we have all our ceremonies, and the rest of the year have to do with planting, fishing, farming, kapa making, that kind of thing. Yeah, building your house, making rope, stuff like that. Okay. Very calmer weather, not a lot of ocean activity. It's pretty calm, easy to work. So they capitalized on that, excuse me. Okay. So conversely, with how it looked wet, this is the same mountain. This is Pu'umaka'ala. As you can see, in the summertime, it is extremely dry, no clouds. Okay, this is the average rainfall off of Wai'anuenue, Rainbow Falls, during the dry season. Yep, that's it. Okay, and if we go to Konama, that's the same Kona field system. Yeah, you might as well take your huli and give it an Indian burn and throw it away because it's not going to survive. So, you see how seasons are very important for planting. Okay. It's the same for farming. Anyway, any questions so far? Okay. All right. Now to blow your mind even further. Okay. There are 35 plus lunar calculations, different lunar calculations throughout the world. Oh, sorry, the world of Hawaii, which means, from Hilo or Hawaii Island to Niihau, okay? And Kaula, I'm sure, at one time. I've so far found about, I think, 38 altogether. And if I can point out to all of you, these are all the different things, the different names. Here's Hawaii Island, and we have all the same names lined up over here, but they're in a different sequence. And Maui has the same names in a different sequence. And then we have Oahu with the same names, different sequence. That's because they're looking at the same star, okay, to calculate their moon. However, they see that star in a different time of the year. Does that make sense? If I'm on the east side of the island, I will be watching it as it rises in the east. If I'm on the west side of the island, I might have to wait till it clears a mountain before I see it. Or I might be somebody who's watching it set in the west to calculate it. Does that make sense? So that's why there are over 38, I'm sure there's more, different lunar calculations. Okay. The only guys who are really strange are the folks on Kauai. Sorry, you guys. They have strange names. They don't follow the rules. They have like Helioholo, Helionehu. It's like names that are affiliated with fishing more than it is about farming. Interesting, yeah? That's just my theory. I don't have an actual answer for that. Okay. So I just thought I'd blow your mind with all of that. There's actually 4 pages of it. When I have a wonderful book someday, gonna be, oh, hey, la kapu. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That's why Molokai has their makali, their ikua happens in April. That's why. The question was, no, I don't even remember. I had plenty, but if the differences between the different calculations were because they saw different times, different stars. It can, yeah. So he's asking, does it matter what time their makahiki is because it's based on the star? It can. It does. It did for Molokai. That's why they have theirs on April. Even still today, everybody else is done already. We closed up shop, moving along, and they're just ramping up. Awesome. No judgment. We love you. Go do your thing. Okay. But that's why. And here's good. I'm gonna blow your mind too right now. Makali'i is actually not all the time the star Makali'i itself, Pleiades. It can also be Venus. The planet Venus is also called Makali'i. See, it just depends on where it's located in the sky and what side of the sky. Venus does her own trips. She rises in the west and sets in the west. She rises in the east and sets in the east. She does her own thing. So, and they're watching those things. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's a lot. Yeah, we can have wine later and then talk about that. It's awesome. Yeah. Which tells me the Hawaiians really were accountable to time, this whole idea that we're always late. Yeah. If we follow the calendar and the moon, just think about that. Wow, we might be really, we're on time actually, all the time. Okay, so back to the 30 phases. Excuse me. The first, there are actually, Hina is the deity that is affiliated with the moon. Okay, yeah, we know that. But there are actually 2 that have to do with time, specifically, and you see that in a lot of stories. The first one is Hina Hanai Akamalama. Okay, everybody say Hina Hanai Akamalama. Okay, and Hina Hanai Akamalama is the woman who feeds the moon. Yeah, that's what it means if we translate it, which means it is the waxing moon. So, her kuleana are these 15 moons. And all of these moons rise in the daytime and set at night. It has to do with her feeding it and making it bigger. Okay? All right. Can we dig it? All right. Second person is Hina Aikamalama. Everybody. Hina Aikamalama. And she is the one who eats the moon or rules over it. Ai also means to rule. Okay? She's generally the akua or the deity that is usually mentioned in stories, but she has to do with these 15 phases here. Those that rise at night and set in the daytime. Did you guys know the moon does that? Okay, very good. And I did this talk like 20 years ago. Nobody knew what the heck I was talking about. They thought the moon was only nighttime and the sun was daytime. I'm so happy we've evolved. Okay, so here we are, sort of kind of at the end. I'm going to sort of, end my talk, I think. I don't know, and I'll take questions. The Po Mahina, the moons, the daily moons that happen all the time, let you know what kind of activities were expected of you to do back in the day. Today we're like Monday, ooh, we hate Monday, and then, we get hump day, with the camel, everybody, yeah, almost down to Friday. Then we get to Friday, and woohoo, everybody's all happy again, right? And then the weekend comes around. you kind of know, okay, start your work on Monday, Tuesday, yeah, just getting along. Oh, hey, it's coming, finish it on Friday, so weekend and all that kind of thing. You sort of know what's expected of you at work between Monday through Friday. Well, Hawaiians had the same thing, okay? And each of these lunar phases are affiliated with different things. For example, Oli Kanaka. Everybody say Oli Kanaka. Okay, and I'm going to actually talk a little bit about that, but Oli Kanaka have to do with birth omens, or omens about people. So, for example, when you want to have children, or when you don't want to have children. So all the little kids got to do earmuffs. So that means, what are the nights you go out and brown chicken, brown cow, if you want to have children, okay, or not, okay? There's certain phases that you guarantee going to happen, okay? All right. Then there's also Oli Kanaka that have to do with the moon phase you're born under. We have a Hawaiian zodiac. Did you guys know that? Mine is accurate. To the T. Okay? All right, and now I'll talk about, I actually have an example of that. From this guy is going to be awesome, to she's going to be a whole bag, to don't leave your stuff around. That's the guy who's going to borrow things and not return stuff, that kind of thing. Okay, down to, if you're born on that moon phase, what your profession is going to be, or should be, they suggest to you. So that's Oli Kanaka. The second is Ha'awina Ho'omana. Moon phases tell us which times we're supposed to show up at the heiau to go to church, to do our thing, okay? There are seasonal ones, for example, like I was talking about earlier, Makahiki, Aha ceremony, and something called Kamauli. And also there were monthly times that they would do different things. Certain nights are better for Oihana Lawe'a, or when would you go fishing? Oihana Mahi'ai is when you would go farming. What times and what days? Oihana La'au Lapa'au, what are the days that you want to go healing? How do you heal somebody really good, really well? And then also, what are the nights that you gather, or days that you gather, drying things, creating things, such as rope and kapa, stuff like that, carving. Okay, the moon phases tell us when's the best time. Okay, so here's an example of if you're born under the moon phase called Hoku. Hoku is a true full moon phase. It's up after the sun sets, and then sets after the sun rises. So it's up in the sky. Hawaiians recognize 4 full moon phases, and so I figured I'd pick this one because this guy's a fun guy. Okay? If a person is born during this moon phase, he or she is usually humble, patient, loving, and prosperous. This comes from Poi Poi. Okay? 1906. This one comes from Kepolino. A man born today will be rich, wealthy, and famous. It is the same for the woman, only she will be attractive. Both will have enemies. Right on. Hey, what's your sign? Okay, occasionally I get asked by different families and people to translate their lunar calendar information. A lot of it had to do with practices that families kept over time, and it was specific to their family. And so this one is pretty cool because it's actually extensive. It's extensive. So this is just a part of it. And it says, a child born on this phase will always be in opposition of authority. So if you think about it, the moon rises at the time that the sun sets. It's opposite, yeah. And then this moon phase sets the same time that the sun rises in the morning. Oh, I can see their methodology. Okay? So he's going to be born, or she will be born, a natural leader. People will be attracted to the leadership and captivated by their presence. It's opposite of what the other guy said. Yep. But this is something that their family put together. And so it is extensive. It continues on. Profession that this child should seek is a lawyer, a politician, a preacher, okay, so, a bank manager or a manager. So it continues on to tell you what you should do. if you have a child who's born that way. Interesting, huh? Okay. All right. Now that's our. I'm going to move on to Ha'awina Ho'omana. These are the phases that are noted to be when different types of ceremonies happen. Hilo Ho'aka have to do with Pele and Hi'iaka. And these 5 phases here have to do with ceremonies that would occur for ku, for example. Sometimes they say ole pau, sometimes they say ole kulua. That phase, those 2 phases are recognized for people who are doing kuni or ana. If you guys know what kuni or ana is. Okay, kuni and ana. Kuni is when you want to send bad juju to somebody else, or take off bad juju that was sent to you. Okay, so that's kuni. And ana can be translated in the same manner, but it also has to do with being able to prognosticate future events, which includes weather, to read weather. So they would do it on those nights, which is really interesting because ole are the days that the currents are, like this, not too good. Lots of currents and anyway, okay. This guy right here, hua and akua, have to do with whomever it is, you shakalaka too. Sometimes Valerie, I think, is the scholar who talked about the first fruit season. So let's say you got your first bananas, you would shakalaka it to whomever you shakalaka to. Might be kane, might be kanaloa, it might be whomever, it might be lono, could be Yesu. We just add them all. It's all good. Put Buddha in there too while we at it. Okay. These guys down here, Ole Pau and Kaloa Kukahi, have to do with Kanaloa and the Nights of Kanaloa, or the Akua of Kanaloa, which is interesting because that's also box jellyfish time in the ocean where we have to be careful. And then we have Kane, Lono, and Maoli, who are also, they're the deities that have to do with life. Okay, different types of life. So each phase tells you when you're supposed to go to church. Okay, and this is my animation that we need right about now. Okay. So, as you can see, that's the moon, yeah? And I have to explain to little ones, that's the ocean at the bottom. And that's what happens when we have high tide. Because the moon, Hina, is called Hina, Wahine Ume Ume. Everybody say Wahine Ume Ume. Wahine Ume Ume. Which means the woman who attracts. So, when I explain to little ones, as the moon rises, the ocean follows suit under her. So that's our high tide. And in front is the low tide, and the back is the low tide. You can see that? That's my easiest explanation to little children. I bet it worked for you too. Okay. So the moon, through its sequence, rises at different times and behaves at different times. In the beginning, we get our negative tides because it's rising at the same time as the sun. And then the full moon happens, it's opposition, we get two rises and settings, and then again, So this is a good example of different people fish efficiently of either when the tide is coming in or when the tide is going out. Okay, does that make sense? An example would be in Kona, where I work in Kahalu'u. The family members in Kahalu'u, they all fish when the tide goes out. Yet Keaho, which is right next to them, same people, same family, in fact, intermingling, but their fishing practices happen when the tide is coming in, different times. And that's just because they've learned to be efficient in different ways. Make sense? Okay, so for fishing activities, it has to do with the tides, what's happening, seasonal and cyclical changes. What you know is it gets lower tides through summertime and higher tides throughout the wintertime. How bright is the moon, or lack thereof? Different fish come up at different times. And again, it really is a local practice that is learned over time, generations. Okay, so basically, if you know about when the moon is coming, okay, this is a good time to throw net, or it's a time when I want to go, spear diving. You're not going to go spear diving on negative tides. You're going to learn that real quick. So you're going to do it when it's, deeper. When are the he'e out? Okay, you can't drop it. You can't drop any of these things on oles because of the currents. So you learn, don't fish on oles. Okay, if I'm going to use pole, if I'm going to use a bigger, hand and line, if I'm going to use a scoop net, if I'm going to surround net. It all has to do with what the moon is doing, okay, to be efficient and productive. Makes sense, yeah? Okay, and of course I always talk about how Hawaiians understood the correlation between the phases of the moon, fish aggregation, spawning cycles, and migratory patterns. Animals and people all want to know when's the best time to eat, and when's the best time to oof. That's like the two things that is very important to living creatures. When can I make babies and when can I eat? Any other time, whatever, we're just cruising in the ocean. So, and Hawaiians understood that and capitalized on when those things were happening. Okay. Then I do this new thing. I thought I'd add, animation. Oihana Mahi'ai, which is farming. This is now called biodynamic farming, okay? And it has to do, if we can think about how the moon affects the ocean and the tides, it's doing the same thing to the moisture in the earth and in plants, okay? Which is what you see happening here. Throughout the 30 phases, different times, the actual activity is in the roots, the activity goes into the trunk, and the activity goes up into the leaves. Okay, it's called biodynamic. If anybody want to hire me, I can tell you when the best time to plant wine is. Hire me. Okay, all right, so here we go, biodynamic farming. You know what's cool about this? These guys who are from Spain, okay, because as you can see, they wrote it in Spanish, found a report that came out of the BishopMuseum, written by this guy named Burr. You guys know about that. He wrote in 1942, and it's quoted in Native Planters as well. And what he did is he studied the sap movement in a plant. I'm not sure which plants he studied, but that happened here. Did you guys know that? Okay, that's my gift to you. Okay, and what these guys did, these scientist folks went, yeah, well, okay, let's check it out. And they did. And guess what? It does matter where the moisture is on the plant throughout the year. So, for example, let me see if I actually have that here. I'm not sure. Oh, no, I don't. So, for example, I might want to plant my my corms, my kalo. So, I'm going to pick these times when the roots need to have energy. You see where the sap is? Okay. This time when the sap is moving up through the trunk, these are the ole days. Good time to cut it back so it remains cut back a little longer. Okay, these are the full moons, which is really interesting because I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, where all the sap is in the leaves. And then as the energy goes back down with the different phases, back in the bark. Okay, cool, huh? Okay, anyway, Oihana Mahi'ai, which is farming, again, determined by what the name of the phase is. If it's cool, that means you're going to plant things that upright and firm. If it's mohalu, you're going to plant flowers, etc., that kind of thing. Is it bright or is it dark? And I always talk about the banana farming, but, well, I'll spare you guys that this evening. And seasonal and cyclical changes. So, of course, that's always good to know. So I go back to the ole phases, which mean without or none, providing insight on how unproductive these phases are going to be. So like how I was saying for farming, it has to do with what the moon phase means. So in this case, ole means without or none. Not good for farming, not good for fishing. Okay. However, for Oihana La'aulapa'au, which is the healing practices, these are the 3 phases that are extremely important, because you remember when we had the biodynamic, everything was up in the leaves? These are the phases that they are actually going to collect the leaves for medicinal purposes. Totally makes sense, because it's got the most potency in the leaves at that time. Make sense? Okay. All right. And those are those 3 phases. They administer it, they do healing, they do lomi. These are the days. There's actually a translation that I did for a family that talked about which mood phases are the best to do certain types of healing as well. So, but we can go on and on about that. Back to these guys again. So here's our 30 phases again. So as you can see, the phases move, they change the way that we practice, they activate different things. It's the sequence, it's the sequence. All right, and now at the end, here we go. We're going to finish with our chant that we just learned. Okay. So let's try our chant, okay? Ready, and. Ihi aka paha oe ihi alo, I ka kahi aka nei. I ka la'au ake kaukau ali'i, I nui ke aho. A hiki a mauli ola, I ola na mahina uli. Ihi aka paha oe ihi alo, I ka kahi aka nei. I ka la'au ake kaukau ali'i, I nui ke aho. A hiki a mauli ola, I ola na mahina uli. I aka paha oe I alo, I ka kahi aka nei. I ka la'au ake kaukau ali'i, I nui ke aho. A hiki a mauli ola, I ola na mahina uli. I ola ya mauli ola. Okay, very good. All right, so, and these are the references, if you need it. Cite my sources, that's what I learned in school. But I really have to cite my two original sources, which really were Uncle Harry Mitchell and Uncle David Kalakea. And I miss them. Funny, huh? Yeah, I really miss them because there aren't very many kupuna who know that kind of information anymore, who needed to be efficient with different. Yeah, I don't even know why I'm crying. That sounds so weird. Yeah. Anyway, they needed to be efficient, and I think, with this big movement towards climate change, how do we understand that the climate is actually changing if we don't even know what the natural cycles are anyway in the first place? So I think the Hawaiian lunar calendar for our people of Hawaii is the best tool that we can use to actually help us identify those natural indicators that are happening out there. For example, we have over 100 years of documented information in our Hawaiian language newspapers, one of the projects of the BishopMuseum, right, to digitize a lot of that stuff. And, that's data that goes back hundreds of years. I mean, there's so much potential for graduate students or just anybody who's interested to go into that and start looking for algorithms. And I know we think we're in the middle, oh my God, there's so much to recover. No, we can start today. And we can start by actually starting to pay attention. And there's a lot of young folks, young Hawaiians, who have started a website called, I think it's called moonphaseproject.com. And what they're doing is they're asking people to submit some of the things that they're noticing. And they just started maybe about 2 or 3 months ago. I think it was in December that they actually started collecting data. And it's a website. And every day there's about 15 of us who will go out and actually say, oh, from Hilo, reporting from Hilo, I see rain, I see the Nehu are in, or the Ahi are coming through, or we got mangoes, that kind of thing. We're starting to document that. It gets uploaded. It gets uploaded on a website. It also gets uploaded on Instagram. You got to work with the kids of today, right? And so what happens is we all report what we're seeing, what's happening, and other people are invited to do that as well. In about 1 year to 2 years, we're going to have algorithms real quick. We're going to see cycles really quick. We're going to see the different, fruiting, flowering. And I think if we start paying attention to what the ocean is doing, what kind of weather we're having, with this psychotic velo weather, it's psychotic, but I don't remember it being that psychotic when I was growing up. Yeah? And now when the storms come, we have hail in the middle of Waipahu. What is that about? So to me, those are natural indicators that tell us there's change that's happening, but none of us are paying attention. So these projects will help us to actually do that. So that's what I'm kind of very passionate about, and I want to help folks be able to do that. So, you know, when they say, Hawaii, what are you doing about climate change? Well, I think it will be like Noah and start learning how to build a double hull canoe, because historically, gang, in our stories, there's actually 3 stories that talk about that happening, you know, to Hawaii. Yeah, and we had to sail away, and then we'd send 2 people back. Oh, what, how hot a ground? Oh, still salty. Okay, where did we go? I have no idea. It doesn't say, but it says we sailed away. So if it happened 3 times before, maybe we should start paying attention to what's happening now. Become really good sailors. How far and how long ago was that? I'm not sure. It's mentioned in the Kumulipo, so I don't know. 900 generations, I guess, is what they're translating. You know, I don't know what that means. It can be really, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. You know, let's see. Lake Tahoe has evidence that there used to be a forest in the middle of the lake, you know, and now it's underneath the water. And now the water is going lower. So, I mean, you know, there's natural things happening around us. The kolea come later. They leave earlier. You guys notice that? They're already in their little tuxedos getting ready to leave. Yeah? Wow, what does that do to their natural cycle? How come they're leaving early? Whales, they come later, they leave earlier. What's going on? You know, so it's just small little things like that that we need to pay attention to, because the ramifications that come after are actually significant. So, anyway, okay, again, any questions? Oh, you're very welcome. Oh, do you have a question? Yeah, and you know what? You guys actually come with 200 years of knowledge, because you remember what your grandmas and grandpas talked about. You already have lots that needs to be, we need that data. Yep. Okay, question up there. Hi. Oh, yeah. You know, it's already been edited and everything, and I'm being advised, wait till your PhD, because then you can cheat and put it in as one of your chapters. So instead of writing it all over. But, yeah, I don't know. That's a long... It's ready to go. I probably need to find a publisher. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Question? Have I done any studies on ma'i? Yeah, actually, yes, I have. Actually, that's part of the Kanaka Oli Kanaka section. And I used the Ni'ihau people as an example. And what I talked about is that, you know, in a small village like that, all the women go at the same time. They all go at the same time. And so the idea of a halepe'a makes so much sense. And, you know, and women notice, you know, when you go camping with a bunch of women, it happened on Kaho'olawe, no miss. Every time we went, somebody would have their ma'i, and that would be the end of that. If somebody smelled it, and the rest of us are all, you know, off on the corner, can't do anything, all bumming. So, yes, there's actually a guy from New Zealand, which is interesting, it's a guy and not a girl, but who's studying that right now. He's looking at the different natural watches that we have. We have a day and night watch. We have tidal. People are tidal, which has to do with your ma'i. And then the third has to do with seasonal. So he's looking at all the different time clocks and how come we don't pay attention anymore. And he's using the women's cycle too. Okay, yeah, that part is interesting to note. It says new moons on the moons of Kane. Yeah, which is why Wakea in the story in the Kumulipo is advised that's the time that he tells his wife, oh, yeah, you got to go in over there. And then he goes and marries his daughter. Well, I'm going to use the term married with chuk-chuks. But yeah, so it's during those phases, the dark moons. Oh, yeah. You know, the Kumulipo is awesome. Awesome data. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Is that it? Thank you so much for offering your time to me today.
Mahalo
See you
for
guys. Take care.
If you have
Thank
any
you.
questions or comments on this or other online audio programs, please visit us online at www.bishopmuseum.org. If you like us on Facebook, you'll be alerted when new programs are available. Ahui ho from the Bishop Museum.